What's going on, gamers? Today we're jumping into a bit more WoW Long, and I'm going to be bringing you my new Earth build, one that I think does a lot of damage, is a lot of fun, and makes you very durable and tanky. So if you want to defeat bosses like they're nothing, then stay tuned. That's coming up next. Welcome back everybody. Today we're back with a bit more WoW Long. I'm going to be bringing you my new Earth and Wood build, one that I think really does thrive. It's one of the best builds I've made. I've put a few builds together now, but I think this is probably one of my favourites as it's just so versatile. It gives a lot of damage, it has a ridiculous amount of survivability, and in my opinion it's probably one of the best builds in the game currently. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to chuck on a little bit of footage so you can see what it's all about, see if it's your playstyle, and then after that I'll go through the full build guide. Hopefully from that you can see that this build really does have it all. A lot of damage, a lot of viability for boss fights and just making your way through the map, health regen, and just able to tank a lot of the enemy's moves. For the primary stats, you're going to want to invest a lot into your Earth Virtue and a little bit into your Wood Virtue. If you want a little bit more in your Lightning, then you'd go a little bit more Wood, but I've invested a lot in our Earth Virtue in order to get the most damage from our imposing slap, allowing us to nuke bosses very easy. Jumping over to our wizardries, and these are the ideal setup. Lion's Roar is much better than I first imagined. You're able to negate a lot of damage, it's going to make every enemy focus on you, but they do pretty much anyway, and with what we've got going on in our build, it's going to debuff them at the same time. Jumping over to Focus Zone, probably one of my favourite buffs in the game. It does an amazing amount of extra damage as long as you're able to stay within the AoE effect. It's not always possible, but when it is, you're really going to notice the difference, and it's great to use just before you've broken the spirit or straight afterwards, enabling you to get a lot of additional damage in. If however you're worried more about survivability than you are damage, don't forget you can always swap it out, and then you could put on Perfect Restoral, allowing you to negate one big hit, or Guard Formation if you're after a bit more mitigation. Just over from here, and Lightning Weapon, we're going to imbue our weapon with lightning. It's going to do an amazing amount of Spirit Break, a nice bit of additional damage, and allow us to go into that Fatal Strike a lot more often. And finally, one of my favourite wizardries in the game, Imposing Slab. Ever since fighting Lu Bu, I've seen just how good this is, and now we're investing into Earth. It's well worth putting on and can take out bosses really easy with this, as well as being able to get a bit of health back whenever we're doing damage with it. Jumping over to our weapons, and the Soaring Ursine Mace works absolutely ideal in this build. There's nothing better for it. Scaling with A- to wood, A to earth, and even C- in metal, it means that it's very viable with this build. And if you want to chuck a bit into metal in order to knock down how much spirit you're using with your wizardry, that's also an option there. This weapon has a very high attack power, a great special move with that Panther's Grit, and the embedding that I've gone with it is damage to enemies with negative effects, stone attack power, and power gain upon martial arts, making this very powerful indeed. Also, we're going to be using its set bonus, Brutal Ursine Warrior, which I'll go over later. But in order to get this and the set pieces that we're after, to make up this build, you're going to need to go to part 4, the Battle of Hooligan Pass, which I'm sure I butchered the name, apologies, but you're going to want to fight this fella just in front of the Lu Bu battle. He is level 20, so he can take a bit of damage, but once you've got a good setup, you should be able to farm him for gear, enabling you to get this set and this weapon quite easy. Just over from here, and just in case there is something that's got a lot of resist to your build, we've put the Drought Demon Blade in place in order to give us a little bit of flame going on. You don't have to spec into this too much, because its unique effect on high spirit is going to enable the blade to have flame anyway. So chuck in flame attack power, flame damage, and enemy status effect accumulation works perfect on this blade, but you won't be using it too much. Just stand from here, any crossbow you want. If you can find one that's slightly better than mine, that would be ideal, as ammo retrieval is not going to help us at all. Also with the footage, I didn't even have this equipped. I had one that had absolutely nothing helping us in our build, so you'll be doing a little bit of extra damage if you put on stats such as these. Stone attack power, lightning attack power, enemy status effect accumulation, and a little bit of spirit sustainability works absolutely ideal. Moving over to the armour set, and we're kicking it off with the Helmet of Rampancy. This is a heavy armour set, so we're going to have a lot of mitigation going on, and the embedments I've put on is going to be shock accumulation on enemies, stone attack power, and damage amplification when we're using our wizardry on enemies. So this works ideal now when you walk straight into a battle and activate that shat. Over from here, the Armour of Rampancy, the special effects going on with this, we've embedded shock accumulation on enemies, stone attack power, heaviness accumulation on enemies, and stone damage. For the gauntlets, we've gone stone damage, stone attack power, heaviness accumulation on enemies, and power drop on enemy upon deflecting a critical blow. So now we've got a nice bit of damage going on and a bit of negation in our build. And lastly, shock accumulation on enemies, stone attack power, heaviness accumulation on enemies, and stone damage. And this is going to complete our set. I found heaviness actually worked better in this build, but if you are going a little bit more into the lightning aspect, then put a little bit more into your wood virtue and put a little bit more lightning damage if you want. But I found this setup worked ideal. For the accessories, you will be able to get much better than myself. These two did not really help us in the slightest, except this one came with an amazing special effect on it, which is on wizardry spell damage. It's going to give you back a little bit of healing. Even though the rest of the stats were awful for this, I put this on as it really helped me to crack through those levels and maintain my health during those boss fights. And for the second accessory, again, nothing special. It has got a bit of stone damage, but ideally you're going to be looking for the same kind of stats you are as on the armour. If you can get those, you'll be pumping out a lot more damage and will have a better overall build than I've got here. Jumping up to our Divine Beast Favour, and we've got the Quillin. This works absolutely amazing in this build, very much an area of denial effect going on, and because of how we're set up, that's what our whole character's about anyway, so anytime something does come into your area, you can now absolutely destroy it with this, as well as with your imposing slab. Lastly, for the set bonus, spirit gain upon deflecting, a little bit of minor spirit damage received, damage reduction upon deflection, and martial arts damage 7.1%. So again, gives us a little bit of survivability and a little bit more additional damage. Overall, I'm having a lot of fun with this build. I think it's very, very good. If you're managing to get those 5 stars, probably chuck a little bit of damage mitigation into the last slot just to make you a bit tankier. But overall, this should see you through pretty much everything in the game, as long as you're staying in those AoEs and your parries are on form. As always, for all things gaming, take care. I'll see you on next day.